We're live. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Today's Weather Tonight. Here, as always, I am your meteorologist for the evening, Cloud Hudson, and I will be bringing you all of tonight's top 5 stories. That includes the weather, all kinds of weather, from larger than the atmosphere to smaller than the atmosphere, and also including the atmosphere. We're looking at all spheres of influence in the Earth. So in my definition of weather, it extends to monitoring the seismic and volcanic activity here on Earth. It also extends to monitoring what's going on in our magnetosphere and the interplanetary magnetic field, and in the solar system itself, as well as calling on some higher powers to let us know what's going on in the realms of vibration higher than the physical world. So yeah, we're looking at very, very physical and very, very non-physical vibrations that all intertwine and interact, interfere constructively and destructively to pop up or down into the next level of density or levity, I guess. Levity is not exactly the opposite of density, but it feels like it is. Okay. Let's start by looking at our top stories tonight, our headlines. Trillions of tons of underground hydrogen could power the Earth for over 1,000 years, says a study. I hope that everyone who worked on that study is safe and sound and is not at risk of assassination by energy executives, because that seems like it would really disrupt the energy industry. Now, you would definitely still need to mine it. It would be underground hydrogen. So I think energy giants are probably letting this out there because, it was the petroleum industry that funded this study. Or no, it was petrol scientists, petroleum geochemists at the USGS. So definitely allowed to do this by the petroleum industry. So they probably know how they would switch over their resources from petroleum to hydrogen, but still potentially a new clean energy source. Here's some crazy weather that's been happening. Let's talk about another research article that's been released in a remarkable discovery from Antarctica's icy depths. Researchers have uncovered enigmatic microbes that shed light on extraterrestrial life possibilities. So what this is they found liquid water underneath ice in a very, very, very cold part of Antarctica that is home to all kinds of microbes in this family, the Petaceae bacteria. I don't know how to say that. But it could have insights for astrobiology because there is evidence that there's super cold water and potentially liquid water underneath the ice that is on moons of other planets in our solar system. So Europa, for example, one of them that is believed to have a subsurface ocean. Another is, what was the other one? Enceladus, a moon of Saturn. Europa is a moon of Jupiter. So yeah, there is potential for life on other planets just in the microbial stage. Now, next, let's look at what are we going for next? cars nearly submerged in a flooded tunnel in Boston. This was back on the 10th, earlier in the week. I don't know how this didn't cross my timeline until today, but apparently there was a underground tunnel road that completely flooded out and cars were submerged. I would be so fucking scared if I was in there. Holy shit, I would not be driving down in that. Yeah, the people in the video are saying, yeah, dude, I knew this would happen. Yeah, no shit. U.S. balloon causes major power outage in downtown Las Vegas. So even if unidentified flying objects, which we'll get to, are or unauthorized aerial UAPs or UFOs, even if they are not, even if they're just a balloon, they still can do damage. Anything flying through the air, if it strikes a power line, could potentially bring down a city block. This is, it came into contact with a transmission line, so this whole area was shut down. Now that's because in Las Vegas they have, I guess, above the earth transmission lines, whereas in my neck of the woods, most transmission lines are buried. Cars and people slipped down snow-covered hill in northern India. That one is, they said, amusing moment, but that looks terrifying. I guess people are doing this on purpose, but there's some decent blizzards going on in Kashmir in India. I think they're saying it's India, but I don't know if that's politically correct, if it's a disputed territory. Anyway, this is up in the very, very northern tip of India that's like super high up there in elevation. Been blanketed with snow. The skiing's been good for them. So awesome. They're getting blizzards in India. Jealous. Not really. We're getting our own blizzards. Fires in California have resulted in these stunning displays of palm trees catching on fire. Look how crazy this is. That's like, it looks like a firework, like Roman candles or something. It's just terrifying. I don't know how you would just be sitting there in your car watching this. I would be getting the fuck out. This looks like the end of Star Wars Episode 3. There's everything just glowing orange embers everywhere. That is terrifying. Yeah, there's also been such high winds over there in California. There's been straight line wind damage of up to 80 miles per hour in some areas. And actually caught on video was a tornado in Northern California. Look at this. There was a tornado warning out there in the San Francisco area. That is nuts. We don't usually get tornadoes in California. That is a very weird weather occurrence. They are not used to dealing with tornadoes in that area. And neither is the nature or the buildings or the infrastructure. So I think for many things, that is probably the first time they have dealt with this. You can see the tornado right there. This is probably the first time they've ever dealt with winds like this, or a tornado. And that is because we've got this stream of really high winds blowing straight on shore. So any angle it makes with something is going to be, look, first tornado warning ever issued in the city for 5:51 a.m. Pacific time on Saturday for over 1 million people. So that's crazy. There were straight line wind damages of up to 80 miles per hour. This is the enhanced Fujita scale. This is how you rate a tornado after it's already happened. What happens is surveyors, meteorologists go out and they basically write down and survey all of the wind damage. They see how much something got blown over and how far it went and what direction it flew. And from that, they're able to backtrack and calculate how fast the winds must have been to do that kind of damage. And then it is later given a rating. That is why we cannot rate a tornado while it's happening. We have to wait until we go out and assess the damage to give it an EF rating. So we'll be waiting to see what kind of wind damage that has done, what rating it's gotten. Okay, so let's go to scary things in the sky news. First, this one's less related to drones. Huge fireball streaks across skies seen over numerous U.S. states and Canada, including Pennsylvania, Ohio, and Michigan. I saw one that said Indiana saw it. There was a fireball that streaked across the sky. Oh, dang. Skip ad. Look, it says December 2nd. Oh, this is December 2nd, 2022. Why am I just now seeing this? Oh, that's old news. Yeah, 22nd, 2022. Yeah, that's okay. I don't know why that popped up as news today. Never mind. Mysterious drones. This is the recent news. Mysterious drones forced New York airport to shut down. An airport in Orange County, New York was forced to shut down on Friday night as mysterious drone activity blocked the airspace. This has gone too far, says New York Governor Kathy Hochul. The FBI has received over 3,000 tips related to the drone sightings. It's near Stewart Airfield. It sounds like a government airspace. This shutdown was near New Windsor, north of an hour's drive north of Manhattan. There have been numerous reports of drone sightings over the past 24 hours in New York. There are people in New Jersey who have been seeing this for a month, since like right before Thanksgiving. But New Jersey is New Jersey's well into this saga, and it's just the drones are just now starting to show up in states other than New Jersey, including California, and also New York. Now, the people of New Jersey are well beyond suspicious. They are not exactly scared, but they are angry at the government for not taking this more seriously. Let's see. Mayor Michael Mellum, which is a fun thing to say, Mayor Michael Mellum, shared on Fox News that of Belleville, New Jersey, mayor of Belleville, New Jersey, shared that when he was briefed with 200 other mayors of the state of New Jersey, they were told that the fire departments are being told to wear hazmat suits if one of the large drones lands or hits the ground when they approach it. They're also being told not to shoot it out of the sky. They don't know if there's a payload on it or not. You're supposed to immediately call a bomb squad of the county if one of these comes down in your area. X has a content note that says, this is a commercial airliner. The flights are FAA mandated navigation and recognition lights. Oh, the lights are okay. So they're saying gaslighting us, just duh. Story got out that there were tons of drones out of the sea or in the sky, but they're saying it looks fully rectangular and not like a normal plane. I'm sure people would start mistaking planes for drones if they heard that they're supposed to be seeing drones. It would be like a psychological thing where you expect to see it and now you do see it. But there are people like the NSC coordinator John Kirby saying that the people of New Jersey are just scaredy cats and dumb and liars, which I don't think is something I've ever wanted to say about someone from New Jersey. I think that people from New Jersey don't seem like somebody you want to bully. Seems like they don't really take a lot of shit usually. So I don't think I would want to call them a whole state of people liars. But they're saying like, oh, you're just confused. These are just normal planes. They're taking it seriously. And this guy is Mayorkas is saying there's nothing they can do about the New Jersey drones. He's on Wolf Blitzer, and Wolf Blitzer is saying, like, people are concerned. You shoot them. Mayorkas came onto Blitzer to say, came onto the Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer to say, oh, we actually need more power. We actually don't have the authority to shoot these drones out of the sky, and we need Congress to give us more power. Now, I don't know if the Department of Homeland Security actually does not have the authority to shoot drones out of the sky. That seems wrong. That seems like they are using this as an excuse to demand more power be given to the federal government than is there. I think if they didn't have the authority to shoot them out of the sky, then the smaller agencies that have been seeing these drones would have already shot them out of the sky. Like if the Coast Guard was the only person allowed to do this, the Coast Guard would probably have already taken one and figured out what it was. So what we're being told is that the federal government doesn't know what these are. They are looking at critical infrastructure. They're unwilling to shoot them down. They're unwilling to do a temporary ban. And they have lights on them. And they're coming out around the evening time when people are still awake. So something's not adding up, is what Mayor Marco Mellum said. He is believing, his theory is that this could be our highest level of government. It could be government assets that are being deployed as a countermeasure. I think he means that it's Project Bluebeam. I think he means that this is a psyop. But what this article said is that he's implying that there could be some sort of military contractor or tech company trying to sell things to the military that's using this as a big publicity stunt to advertise the new capacities of their drones. So could this be some sort of just big PR scam? Could it be something to distract us from the brewing class consciousness of the working class American people? Could it be something to distract us and perhaps consolidate power to the federal level as Trump goes to office? I think all of those theories are very possible. Now, other people have said it's aliens. I don't know about that as much. I think that requires a lot more assumptions. I think it's more plausible that this would be a either government entity or private industry entity creating a spectacle for one or more reasons. And I'm not saying it's our government. I'm not saying it's a foreign government. And I'm not saying that it's any one company for sure. But this would be a great advertising campaign if you were trying to show off the new capabilities of your company's drones, because people are taking videos of it all the time and being like, whoa, I didn't realize we had the technology for that. So I have a feeling in like 2 or 3 months' time, we're going to look back at all this and be like, oh, it was so clearly this. But at this point in time, we don't have hindsight because we're going through it right now. Why is this targeted ad here? It's just all but. Unstoppable beauty of sports. Stunning women in sport. Okay, can you just tell me what her time is? No, can't. Gotta just show women in bathing suits. they can't be proud of their accomplishments. Okay. Sunos, we're looking at volcanoes now. Hello. Oh my gosh. Kaylee and Jenny were here. You used to live in Orange County, New York, in a place called Florida, New York. Never saw so many UFOs in my life. Oh, that is interesting, actually. So you saw a lot of UFOs when you lived in Orange County. So how do you feel about Orange County finally admitting that there are strange objects flying in the sky? Do you think that these are UFOs? Do you think that they are drones? What's your theory, Jenny, as someone who is familiar with the area? New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, New Hampshire, Maryland, Florida, Kentucky, Texas, Arizona, California, more. Oh, Germany, Costa Rica, and Argentina. Interesting. So this is a global, which leans towards Project Bluebeam. Okay. Luigi's Angels. Yes. Wes. Oh, my favorite. Lockheed Martin Pride Parade belated. That's hilarious. Yeah. This is a Lockheed Martin Pride Parade. That's what it is. I like Luigi's Angels as well. This is all speculation. I want you guys to sound off in the comments with what you think is going on here. Meanwhile, on the earth, on the ground, underneath the ground, in fact, we've got exploding volcanoes, 38 in eruption phase to be exact. We got new volcanic ash emissions out of Reventador in Ecuador. A flight level 145 volcanic ash plume, ongoing volcanic ash emissions from Popo and Fuego. Let's see, anything new on the 14th here. Suwanos Jima still doing new eruptions all the time. Here's the White Island volcano in New Zealand. You can see it right out here in this big Gulf Bay situation. And you can see the clouds coming off of the volcanic ash clouds coming off of the volcano there. White Island, New Zealand. Explosive activity continues. Volcanic ash plume rose up to 2,000 feet. Popo continuing. Kapahue no emission, but that's the report, is no emission. Interesting. Fuego had frequent volcanic ash emissions. Okay, so everything's looking pretty consistent on the volcanic side. Let's go now to our earthquakes. I'm gonna actually, nope. Yeah, move this. There. And I've got the weather on in the corner just so you can see what we're about to talk about next. A little preview. Lilo and Stitch was propaganda to prepare us for integration into a galactic council, and now we're there. I like that theory as well. Kaylee and Jenny, if you don't know Wes, Wes is one of my best friends in the whole wide world. From in real life. Oh wow, we got 6 viewers. Hello everyone. We're talking about what else? The UAPs, the UFOs, the drones, whatever you want to call them, the big distraction party in the sky so that we don't look at how many bombs are being dropped illegally in the Middle East. This is all sleight of hand, look away Never mind what we're doing behind the curtain. Never mind that the oligarchy is getting their favorite seats on the council, the High Council of Evil. Probably true about Lilo and Stitch and the, I'm not going to say that out loud. That'll get me flagged. But it's, what am I going to say? Next, let's go to check out our earthquakes. Man, look at that. Okay, let's start in South America. We never start there. 4.4 at 35 kilometers depth over here is that Ecuador? Yes, Payan, Ecuador, right on the coast. And then down here in that triple point between, it says undefined on the USGS point location for that one. Oh, Bolivia. It's right in this triple point of Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia. That's like a big area that gets a lot of this little area where the three countries meet. This whole area gets a lot of earthquakes, and that's a 4.9 at 186 kilometers depth. Then up here at Puerto Rico, as always, the perpetual 2s and 3s from Puerto Rico just never stop. The 3.7 at 29 kilometers depth, 3.2 at 68. I'd be surprised if they did report on these 2s and 3s in Puerto Rico at this point because they're very common. Out here in West Texas, we got our normal stack of quakes in the oil fields. We also have, let's take the ring sizes down to check out Southern California, Nevada, and the geysers. Okay, this stack right here where this 3.6 at 8 kilometers depth this is where we saw a upper range 5 earlier in the week. And this area where we've got 2s and 3s clustered, that is where the 7 was last week. And then this stack is our regular stack at the geysers, California. We've also got a little stack here in Oregon, Northern Oregon. Let's look at up here in Alaska. We got a 3.4 and a 3.1 up here at the top of the world, and some lower level quakes as well. Those are not too deep. We had a 3.9 on the Aleutian Island chain, making our way out to, it's about halfway between mainland and where we've seen these quakes near Adak, Alaska. That area seeing a 4.1 at 20 kilometers depth today as well. We also had a pretty hefty stack of quakes in the Big Island of Hawaii, 3.1 being the highest magnitude. The rest were mostly 1s and 2s. We had a 4.7 here on the volcano islands of Japan at 10 kilometers depth. I always wonder what's at 10 kilometers below the surface. 5.3 at 46 kilometers depth, a 4.5 at 10 kilometers depth, 4.3. That one's a deep one here in the in Indonesia at 243 kilometers depth. Then we had a 4.8 at 10, a 4.6 over here in Papua New Guinea at 53, and a 5.2 at 10. Then we also had 2 quakes down here on the border of the Antarctic and Australian plates, both at 10 kilometers depth. We also have this 5.2 just off the coast of New Zealand at 10 kilometers depth, a 4.9 and a 4.5 right next to it. The 4.9 was the shallow one, and the 4.5 was the deep one. You see this red popping off. This is kind of our dumbbell, our barbell situation where we get a deep one and a shallow one in similar places. This 4.5 was also very deep, and that one was up here as we get towards Fiji. Let's see, south of the Fiji Islands is all it says. But these are kind of stacking. So the first one that happened was 5.2 was at 520, and that was at 819. So first was the surface 5.2, then we had this deep one, then we had this 4.5 deep, then we had this shallow 4.9, yeah. The 5.2 over here was at 10 kilometers depth. See, nothing out of Africa or Europe or Asia today. Had another South Sandwich Islands earthquake, a 4.6 at 110 kilometers depth. So that's our earthquake roundup today. That's where the earth was moving and shaking, where our crusty bits were jostling each other. Oh, and I forgot to say 4.5 over here on the Kamchatka Peninsula of Russia at 123 kilometers depth. Now, I'm not an earthquake forecaster, though I do believe that it might be theoretically possible to forecast where the next big ones would go. I'm not trained in that because I haven't been observing earthquakes long enough to notice the patterns. I'm just observing them daily in an effort to get to know the patterns eventually right now. Atmosphere. Okay. I'm just a perpetual shit poster. Sometimes Mercury, the god of tricks and prophecy and messages will just like take your shit post and make it real. Undefined just means the JavaScript fucked up probably. Oh yeah, it did. It was undefined for a second and then it popped up as a correct location. Okay, so now we go to the portion of the evening when I talk about what is conventionally referred to as weather. Let's see. I'd like to get some of our forecast models up because I'm going to show you what I've got on Radar Omega right here, but I'm also going to show you some stuff from Earthquake 3D from Tropical Tidbits because they're my favorite. Okay, so let's start left to right. First of all, over here in the Pacific Northwest, from Eugene to Victoria, Seattle and Portland, Olympia and Salem, all included, we are getting the spittle, the tail end of this big front that just moved ashore. Let me see if I can go to, if it'll let me load 250 frames, because that'll show the entire story of the onshore flow, the atmospheric river that fire hosed over San Francisco and south. Really, we got an atmospheric river that approached like exactly perpendicular to the California coast that swept this cold front through, brought a lot of moisture fed into that cold front. And as the air parcels raised up the mountains, it created a lot of that rain shadow effect where past the mountain, you get a lot of rain, where the higher up you go, the more rain you get because the air parcel has been lifted and wrung out like a sponge as it lifts. So with 250 frames, you can see kind of the whole story where this is actually the storm that produced that tornado in San Francisco that moves on to the mountainous states. Got a lot of heavy rainfall here near Idaho Falls. This is the area, this tri-state area between Wyoming, Idaho, and Utah. This is where there's a giant caldera under the surface that feeds Yellowstone. Actually, no, not that one. It's the one near Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming that's where there's like a huge lake of lava underneath. Now, what's a lake of lava versus under the surface? There's always magma. It's not lava when it's under the surface, it's magma. It's just like a big bubbling cauldron underneath here, fueling Yellowstone. At this point, we don't need to worry about it. What I'm saying is there was a lot of storming that happened. Look at significant power outages over here in the West Coast. We got 8%, 15%, 3%, 20% of the county without power. That's pretty significant for Central California. I guess this is considered northern. I consider Northern California to be part where there's the straight part. Straight California. And then as this cold front squooshes the air mass onto shore, we get kind of like diverging at the upper levels where part of this air mass goes north and part of it goes south. The part that goes north goes to really feed what is a warm front at this point. Even though it's the same temperature, it's warm in comparison to where it's going this way. That like in the upper plains and Canada, and part of the air mass goes and follows this stationary front, follows along this line. It kind of like takes, if it went Denver, if the air mass went towards Denver, it's going north, and Pueblo, it's going south. And south it goes and gets caught up in this cold front. So obviously, if it went north, it's a warm front, and if it went cold, if it went south, it's a cold front, because it's whether an air mass is a cold or warm front depends on the temperature of the air that it's moving into. So a parcel of 20-degree air could be warm or cold depending on what the temperature already is in the area that's moving into. So up here, while it's acting like a warm front, down here it is acting like a cold front, and you can see it sweep through. This is also being fed with moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. This is linking up with a upper level trough that had a decent negative tilt. That means that like the axis of the trough, where the wavy lines are ridges and troughs, the trough is where it bows down like a U shape. When it's tilted that way or that way, it's either a positive or negative tilt. And when there's a negative tilt to the trough, it has inherently more vorticity and more thunderstorm making capabilities. It's just a better orientation for the formation of a large mesoscale cyclone, or a mid-latitude cyclone, excuse me. And you can see that happening here around this low. We've got the occluded front back here and a slight warm front, like with a stationary front out ahead of it, and a cold front there. That is telling the story of the cold front being a big swooping up of like low air coming and rising air ahead of it. And the warm front being warm air that comes and lifts over cold air in order to give it some individual lift of its own. So that's why here where there's the warm front, you see it getting its own little rotation upward. And down here where we're being fed by the cold front, you see more like bands of areas where clouds are forming, rather than this little parcel became its own discrete storm. This looks like all more organized and interconnected. This would be a much nastier storm if our temperatures were higher, but it would also be a nastier storm if our temperatures were lower. But fear not, temperatures will be falling behind this storm. Everyone, this is a stream of moisture that's going from Austin to like Chicago, by way of Nashville. Let me turn on our satellite imagery so we can look at the lower level water vapor. So in this imagery, blue and green is more moist and red and orange is more dry air. So you can see there is moisture being like not created, but spit up into the lower levels of the atmosphere, spinning around in the lower levels of the atmosphere, down here all the way up into where we're getting the bulk of our rainfall. And you can kind of see the way that the airflow is moving better with water vapor imagery than you can with regular radar, in my opinion. Satellite water vapor imagery gives you a better idea of the way everything's moving. And we can see what I was talking about the divergence here near Colorado better. You see it kind of like splitting where some of it, we'll see it when we get to the upper levels of the atmosphere, actually. This is where that atmospheric river is still going ashore near, like between San Francisco and LA. And this system up here near the Pacific Northwest is not necessarily part of this atmospheric river, but they are both feeding moisture into this whole big system. So out ahead of this stationary front, we are getting sucked into the Midwestern cyclone going on. That's like right over, centered over Missouri right now. And then as we go to the mid-level water vapor image, you can see even better what is happening with this divergence aloft, creating a nice feeding for like everything that happened in the West Coast to transform into this new spiral. Look at that nice spinny boy. I mean, it's not a nice one, it's a mean one, but look at that mean spinny boy. Look at how pretty that is right here over Springfield. Watch. Oh, don't you just love watching the fluid dynamics go like, whoo, whoo. It's such a beautiful sight to see. It's an amazing mapping of the way that warm and or moist and dry air spins around to like feed a cyclone. And it's really the lamination, the layering of, it's like a cinnamon bun where you want to have like dough, butter, cinnamon, dough, butter, cinnamon. You want to have them all stay in that swirl in order to like maintain the integrity of the pastry. But if you all just mooshed the cinnamon and butter into the dough, it wouldn't be a cinnamon bun anymore. That's how this storm stays a storm, is by maintaining the lamination and both inflow of colder, drier air and warmer, moister air into the same vertical stack of rotation. And you can see this kind of where it looks like water is appearing out of nowhere. That's where it's moving from the lower levels to the upper levels, or from the upper levels to the lower levels. And that was the mid level. So now let's look at the upper level water vapor, and everything looks way more moist. This is way up there where you can see these like macro scale, or I guess mesoscale, synoptic scale. You don't say macro, whatever. You say mesoscale or synoptic scale. This is where you can see even the mountain regions in the Sierra Nevadas in California. You can see that like lifting up the air parcel and turning it into water vapor at the upper levels. You can see the mountain ranges scraping up into those upper levels of the atmosphere and pushing all this moisture into the upper levels. You can also see where from the mid levels and lower levels, we are feeding moisture into the upper levels here. And you can see also where the center of rotation is not exactly stacked right on top of each other. Like currently, the center of rotation at the upper level water vapor is right there. The mid-level water vapor center of rotation is a little bit south, and the lower level is also a little bit south there. But up at this upper level, we're centering it much more up here. So there is a little bit of tilting, a little bit of stretching as you go up in the atmosphere. But overall, it's a very healthy storm. You can see the negative tilt to that trough there. The troughing down is where you get that dry air, this like this injection of cold, dry air spinning into here. That is the trough in question that is negatively tilted. Mixing in with the moisture from both the remnants of the Pacific atmospheric river and some feeding of Gulf of Mexico moisture into the upper levels. From the lower levels to the upper levels. And you can see that like divergence and funneling really like at the upper levels, where it either picks to go up towards Bismarck or down towards Wichita, right around that Nebraska, Colorado, Kansas border region area, even near Cheyenne, Wyoming. Look at me, I know geography. Okay, moving on. And give me just a second. Here we go. I'm going to put it back on our radar while it's in the corner. Okay. Let me check. What did I miss? Anything on Cyclone Cheeto? Oh, yeah. Is that a positive bow? It's a negative bow. Now you want a cinnamon bun. Okay. We will check on Cheeto for you. So this is a negative tilt there because it's going from upper left to bottom right. That's a negative slope if you were like graphing it in a quadrant plane. This is 1,000 to 500 millibar thickness, which is something that can kind of go as an analog for where you're going to see rain or snow. Not necessarily, but it usually goes along the 540 thickness line is where you'll see snow. That's why this is divided into red dashes and blue dashes. Oh, that's not what I wanted. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Let's look at, I'm zoomed out a little too much. Where is, okay. Gosh, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, let's go to look at our vorticity at 500. Okay, our 500 height vorticity. That is where you see that upper level trough really negatively tilted, creating a lot of vorticity. That is in the highest values that we have up here. It's up in the 50 range. As we click through, you can see how it looks like there were two crashing ocean waves, one being the storm in the Midwest, one being the storm out west. And look at that. Look at the huge vorticity numbers out here. No wonder they had a fucking tornado in San Francisco. Can you imagine getting hit with that much vorticity and high wind at like a steep angle to your city? Of course they had some thunderstorms. This is something that like it doesn't even always show vorticity on the map. So to have this much like fiery blown up, that's significant. So we got this bowling ball trying to be a cutoff low here, but still kind of staying in the larger embedded picture. I mean, it is kind of a cutoff low because we have this as a cutoff area, but as it moves through, it weakens, hopefully just to not be too much of a kink in the stream, but we do have this setup right behind it coming in and bringing another wave of really high vorticity, really high winds aloft, sweeping through the area where lake effect snow happens. So as we know, that area has already been hit pretty hard. So if the lake effect snow machine starts up again, it could be pretty rough. We're now getting into the forecast territory of Christmas. And look at that off the coast. Look at how it spins out. It becomes a cutoff low, really pinching out. Look at how many millibars it's pinching out. That's a huge cutoff. Looks like it'll just stay like sit and spin. Now that is a positively tilted trough, so it's not as threatening, but it's still not a great thing. This is a northwest flow for Monday, December 23rd into the Western North Carolina mountains. That is the type of flow that gives some significant snowfall events in that area. So I'm looking for a white Christmas. Doesn't look like Christmas will be white. Maybe the days right before. Actually, getting a little stormy. Maybe we will have a white Christmas. Let's look at the temperature there. Yeah, as we're getting to look at that Wednesday, December 25th, potentially a white Christmas all throughout the Appalachians. Ooh, buddy, get your shovels ready. It's about to go down because this cutoff low looking nasty. It looks like by this time next weekend, like in 1 week's time. Now, the further out a forecast is, the less reliable it is. But man, looks like we could get some really significant snowfall in the Northeast there, followed by a big system moving through in its wake around Christmas. So, potential white Christmas. Ooh, fun. Let me not leave out y'all in California too. This also looks like you might have a white Christmas over there, Kaylee. And Jenny, I forgot where you're from. Are you the one in Texas, or are you, I should make that radar smaller. Sorry. Are you, my friend, in Pennsylvania or Texas? I forget which location you're at, Jenny, but I would give you a white Christmas forecast if I remembered. Drinking another milkshake because I don't drink alcohol anymore. I just drink the sugar straight up as sugar. South Texas, Port Arkansas. Okay, yeah, you were the one who I was warning about Hurricane Beryl at the beginning of the year. Well, I know that. Yes, let me scoot. I got like a little space heater in here because I'm in the cold ass garage. It doesn't look like you'll have a white Christmas, Jenny. Oh, you don't want snow here. Too dangerous to drive in the mountains. Okay, well, hopefully it won't be white Christmas for you, Kaylee. Yums. It's not another Sonic Shake, so I don't know if you have Cookout in Texas. I don't think you do. But Cookout is a takeout chain that was started in Greensboro, North Carolina, that has like the best food. It's just the best. It is the best one. Just point blank, period. And this is a peppermint chocolate chip milkshake. Cookout. I know I'm not looking for sponsorships from many people, but if there was any sponsorship I would take, it would be from Cookout. I'm sorry. I'm a bad radical for supporting somewhere that has so much animal products, but Hey, they're a really good takeout chain for if you're a vegetarian too, because you can get a cheese quesadilla and their sides are pretty dank. They got white cheddar cheese bites and hush puppies and fried onions and really good fries. All their stuff. It's the best place to get takeout if you're a vegetarian too. And look, it's got like chips, like shavings of chocolate chips at the bottom. And like, you know, those soft peppermint candies, that's what they mix in here with the peppermint chocolate chip milkshake. It's so good. Cookout, please sponsor me. I've had everything on your menu a million times. And it's all good. Cookout, I have made you so much business. The best part about Cookout is they're open late, like Taco Bell hours. Okay, enough shilling for Cookout. Get back to the weather. Looks like many people could be having a white Christmas. I hope you stay safe out there, Kaylee. Yeah, let's finish up this this segment. Oh, I wanted to look at Cheeto. Real quick. Tropical Cyclone Cheeto. Where is this? Where is that? Is that... Where's that near? I don't think our mountains are the worst to drive through. They're very low to the ground, so they're not that bad. I think that Kaylee's out in like Humboldt County, California, and they got bigger, steeper mountains that are probably like have less vegetation and shittier to drive on. But I mean, we did just have a hurricane that messed up like all our roads. So how could I forget Hurricane Helene when I'm still not drinking tap water and I'm drinking our emergency 10-year shelf life box water instead? Yeah, no snow there. I think no snow for you. Hopefully. Where's this guy? Let me look on a different website, actually. Tracking the tropics. Where is Cheeto located? Is that in the Western Pacific? Is that Madagascar? Is this off the coast of Africa? I will look on. Where's my null Earth? Yeah, I think this is where it is. Yes, this is Cheeto right here. That was Madagascar. I was right. Yeah, that's looking pretty significant. Really low pressures, looking at 984, maybe 980 hectopascals. Winds, though, wind speeds don't look too terrible. They're just in a place that doesn't get a lot of cyclones making landfall. And earlier in the year, don't you remember that Madagascar had several cyclones back to back that were really devastating? That was not fun. Oh, and look at the curl on these babies. Okay, these Northern Pacific waveforms out here, these cyclones out in the Northern Pacific, are what sets up what will roll into the United States. Sometimes they just kind of hang out in this armpit that is Alaska. I think of the Alaska-Canada coastline as like the armpit over here. And sometimes they just go and spin around in the armpit and just like go up into the shoulder into northern Canada and Alaska. But sometimes they will spin so well that they will spin off their own little eddies. They'll shed a vortex into, and that'll make its way into the Pacific Northwest as a system that can move through the United States. Right now, wind's not showing something that looks too scary. I mean, I wouldn't want to be out there. It's like wind 60, 70 miles per hour. That's like a fucking typhoon right there. So actually, that is about to close in on Adak, Alaska, where we just had all those. We've had these very large magnitude quakes out there. So it would not be an awesome time to be a researcher out in the middle of the Aleutian Island chain. Oh, did you guys hear that? That was my back. Oh, can't do it that way. That was crazy. Snap, crackle, pop. It's like popping your knuckles, but for my spine. Okay, enough blabbering. Let's go to our next. I'm just so excited that all you guys are here right now. That cyclone is huge. I cannot find any footage. Thanks. You're welcome. I recommend tracking the tropics, I recommend tropical tidbits for your tracking the tropical tidbits is a great place to monitor both hurricanes and cyclones because they give you can look. My favorite shading. Oh, can I pick shading? Where is that? I like plot type. The Dvorak technique really shows the formation of an eye wall really well. It's not as pretty because it's not colorful, but it's just a different way to color scale the data that I think makes it a lot easier to see the life and death cycle of a cyclone. So as it's making landfall there, it is breaking down, but it is still maintaining a decent band of winds around there. And remember, this is in the southern hemisphere, so it's going to be spinning the opposite way from what we get in the northern hemisphere. If you were in the northern hemisphere, this would be a high pressure system. That's why they talk about the toilets flowing backwards, but I don't think it really does. That's all due to the Coriolis force, which is like a function of the angle that you are with respect to the rotation of the Earth. So you're either in one set of 90 degrees or another, and that means that the Coriolis force contributes to the spinning of the storm just a teensy tiny bit. And that all adds up to be something that changes the completely, like the storm scale level changes. It's not a sentence. Coriolis force is something that's very tiny, but then it adds up a lot to make it so that low pressure systems move clockwise in the southern hemisphere and counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere. There's a lot more there that we could go into, but I'm not going to go into it. If you run into people who don't believe in the curvature of the Earth, have them explain the Coriolis force to you in their philosophy, and then it might be a self-rigorous set of beliefs. But until you can explain how the Coriolis force came to be, I don't think that your philosophy about the shape of the Earth holds any water. Though I'm always open to new ideas. Let's see. The next thing that we're going to go to is looking at the Schumann resonances. Take a look at our sonogram there. Let's see. Okay, so pretty quiet on the Schumann resonances bands. Just a little bit of static in the past few hours here. This is as measured in Tomsk, Russia. The last burst of power we had was like on the 12th. No, the 13th here. The 13th was the last day that we saw any significant power increases in the Schumann resonances. There's some like background hum that's a little elevated, but nothing too big. Let's look at what the magnetosphere is doing. Of course, the Schumann resonance is measuring overall energy transfer from the upper atmosphere to the lower atmosphere by way of lightning strikes. Because those are the discharges between the capacitor plates that are formed. I mean, the upper atmosphere and the surface of the Earth have a slight charge separation that builds up, and the charge dissipates through lightning. So cool. It's like the Earth is a giant battery. Not even metaphorically. It literally is one. That's always very cool to me. Okay, so our magnetosphere looks like a normal shape. It usually looks like this comet and tail type of shape with a big lens out front. I always think of this as an eyeball, like with a contact lens on it or something. And like the wake of the stream is this streamy boy here. That's like your optic nerve. I don't know why that is always the way I see this. You can see this is the velocity. You can see the changing velocities in the different levels of rings around the Earth. Here showing up as like changes or no changes in the velocities as with respect to the overall stream of things coming around there. This is the density, the plasma density. And that usually goes reciprocal to velocity, but not always. Sometimes the sun puts off things that are just... And we've got a big high density cluster, like very close to the Earth. So there's pretty well charged up lots of plasma in this area. I would expect there to be like a knocking down of that plasma into our upper ionosphere if and when we get another big impact from the sun, because it can be in a pretty low density. It doesn't have to be this charged up. This is pretty well charged up. Okay, the pressure will show that will reflect that higher density right now of plasma, charged particles in a soupy boy state. Yeah, pretty high pressure in the magnetosphere. And this is measured in nanopascals instead of hectopascals. So that just shows you we are all on a gradient from the surface of the Earth to all the way out here in the magnetosphere. It's just that the pressure is so different out here that it's not considered part of the atmosphere anymore. This is when we're in the gradient zone, that gray zone, the transition area between having atmospheric levels of pressure and having interplanetary levels of pressure. Here, pressure is measured between like the sparse electrons and charged particles and ions that'll bump into each other occasionally in what's mostly a vacuum. But it is still measured in pascals, units of pascals. It's just hectopascals is like 10 to the 100, and nanopascals is like -10 to the -7 or something like that. I forget what the exact exponents are, but it's 10 to the minus or 10 to the positive something. You're going on either side of powers of 10 to get from hectopascals to nanopascals. So anyway, that looks really, really high pressure. And like we could see precipitation event any day now. I would say I would expect that to precipitate downwards into our atmosphere any day now. Let's look at our coronal mass ejections. Look at our solar weather. Ooh, look at all that. Okay, on the 14th, we had from 34 to 42. That is 9 coronal mass ejections today. 2 of them being partial halo events, type 2 partial halo events. That means that there's a good chance. Ooh, look at that one. I bet that came from 3917, or that new one, or that one that just went beta, gamma, delta. That's a beaut. Crikey, she's a beaut. That's a great one. Look at that big bulging burst of solar energy. Solar energy coming from the sun. Let's see if our coronagraphs got that. Yeah, buddy, it looks like we did. Looks like we did catch that on there. Looking good, looking good. And then we get a show the blowout. Do it. Oh, it's not going to show it in the GIF. But you can see it in the current image. You can see this very recent coronal mass ejection going balls to the walls, really blowing it out. I wish we had better. Oh, that's beautiful. I never go on this one. I bet it was from this area right here. We don't have SDO imagery right now, sadly. That is because the thing at Stanford. Oh, we do have. No, this is probably old stuff, isn't it? I don't think that's the current sun. Yeah, no, this is old AIA imagery. This is our current imagery. Okay, we got 3924, 3920, and 3917. That's the one I thought this new explosion came from. And didn't I say it was going to go out with a bang? Every time something goes on the limb of the sun that's like past the Earth, it seems to explode like right after us. Let's look at solar flares. Did a flare happen with this? Not really. No M-class flares today. Not much to speak of. We stayed in the C-class territory, but not much to speak of. Moderate strength in the interplanetary magnetic field and with a southward component and dropping in strength. So, or gaining in absolute value of strength, negative orientation of higher nanotesla values. So this is something that will show you when there's a good chance of anything from the sun coupling with the, it'll be like magnets where north to south and south to north attract. This is, will the stuff from the sun be sticky to the earth? And it looks like, yes, it would be pretty sticky if it hit right now. But is there much coming to Earth right now? Not a whole lot at the moment. We are still waiting for these coronal mass ejections that started this week to arrive. They should be arriving about halfway through next week. And we're expecting some decent increases in plasma density and velocity. Or density then velocity in its wake. And finally, the Enlow model is showing part of that, but they're only showing like one ejection. Can't wait till we see this new CME modeled. That'll be a sight to see because this is a beauty. That is a really gorgeous one. That's going to be awesome. Yeah. Oh, these are all back to beta gamma, so this isn't a beta gamma delta anymore. That's our current look at the sun. I wish I had a GIF for you. I'm pretty sure Suvi has it, but I haven't gotten a link set up yet and I don't want to go searching for it in front of y'all. Protons look pretty moderate. Nothing, no big news since yesterday. Okay, now let's go to the planetary weather. Planetary weather, for those of y'all don't know. Okay. I believe it's a dome. We're stationary with a dome above us, aka the firmament. I think, what if the firmament is a gradient to get this? More levels. Okay, I think it's all a gradient all the way up. It's like there's no solid knocking on heaven's door. There's no like door. It's just kind of like an escalator. Well, the lights are flickering. That means I'm right. My brother-in-law thinks the world is flat. Tell him his head is. I like that. You know, the world is flat when you have a perspective of being the size of a human on Earth. But like, if the Earth is flat, explain mountains. Mountains aren't flat. Okay. That's always my favorite. Love the graph part. Trippy. Yes, that's always my favorite argument against flat Earth is well, then explain hills and mountains. No, I've been doing research into why people believe in flat Earth and what they actually believe and what the whole philosophy is. And there are many philosophies behind it. The one that I find most plausible is the torus Earth. The Earth is shaped like a donut theory, but it actually being like flat doesn't resonate with me on an energetic vibrational level. Doesn't resonate as true. It doesn't add up with the way spinny boys work in the atmosphere. Doesn't add up with the way the Coriolis force works. Now, if you were to say that it was like two sides of the same coin, no, it still doesn't make sense. You would have to say the northern hemisphere is one side of the coin and the southern is the other side. But then where would you draw the equator? It's actually kind of arbitrary anyway. The equator is actually drawn at the equatorial plane, which is the disk in which the Earth rotates around the sun. Okay. Let's look at our planetary weather. Did you know that the planets don't orbit in the same equatorial plane as the Earth? The Earth has its plane that it rotates around the sun in, but the other planets have their own planes that intersect at different angles with our equatorial plane. So at any given time, not only do the planets have an angular measurement around the Earth, they also, that is reflected in this chart as it's 360 degrees of the zodiac wheel, but they also have an inclination or declination angle. So the planet is either above, below, or parallel to the equatorial plane of the Earth. That's how they don't bump into each other. Not that they're close enough that they would bump into each other, but there are aspects in astrology called parallel, contraparallel. There are different aspects between the planets that have to do with their inclination and declination angle, not just their circular angle. But let's talk about just the circular angles for now, because that's the only one I know how to talk to you about. It's a sun day and a sun hour, according to this. Oh, it's like 2 a.m. I gotta shut up. Sun is at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. We got Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius at 6 degrees. That is making a great trine, not a great trine, an awesome trine to Mars retrograde in Leo. And we also have other retrogrades in fire sign. We have the North Node in Aries and Chiron in Aries, both retrograde. These aren't really making an angle to the North Node. We don't really measure that, but I'm just saying that there are lots of retrograde fire things going on. This is symbolically reflective of power and retreat, in my opinion, or getting on their defensive end, or feeling threatened by the masses and maybe getting a little scared and pulling some mass pranks. We got Venus in Aquarius at 9 degrees, moving out of aspect of opposing Mars, and now safely far enough away from Pluto that she can have her own story in Aquarius without aspecting Mars or Pluto, finally giving us a little bit of benefit, some benefic stuff. Today, I think, was the daily election or the monthly election chart for the astrology podcast. They said today was the best day to get something done. If you needed to elect to do something under good stars, today with, I think, Jupiter on the ascendant for your local area was what they picked. We have the moon in Gemini at 22 degrees, just about to be a full moon, pretty much a full moon. We're just like 1 degree off from a full moon. We are approaching a full moon in Gemini. That will be our last lunation of Sun in Sagittarius. The next ones will be in Cancer and Capricorn. This is also co-present with Jupiter retrograde in Gemini at 15 degrees. It's also making an aspect, a square aspect to Neptune direct in Pisces. So there is a little bit of a delusional, illusional aspect to this full moon, where you might be able to cloud your judgment or delude yourself into thinking that things are either better or worse than they are, or that you are finding out some great life lessons or discoveries that you're actually not really knowing the full extent of the meaning of them yet. You're learning something right now. It's just not the thing you think you're learning. And Uranus in Taurus still has a sextile to that Neptune. So I don't think we fully know the ramifications of what's happening as an influenced by Uranus and Taurus yet. I think in the next few years, we will find out what this retrograde Uranus and Taurus period really means. And we'll look back and be like, wow, all of that was happening during this. But right now, with making the trine aspect to Pluto and the sextile aspect to Neptune, I feel like this is something so much deeper that we are not perceiving yet. Some people are perceiving, but you're having to be on a very much higher level of observation of the universe to perceive it. We also have Lilith in Libra and Chiron in Aries opposing each other. Last night, I watched a very interesting YouTube video about using limerence as a path into shadow work. And that's very relevant for me because I've been dealing with some limerences in my life recently. And I feel like that's a very Libra Black Moon Lilith thing, to use crushes on people to learn about your shadow self. And the message of the video was like, what in that other person do you see that you are lacking or you don't think you can access in yourself? Like, what in the other person are you trying to fill a void with inside of yourself? What about them makes you so attracted to them? The theory behind the video was that whatever that attracts you to that limerent object is something that you want to cultivate for yourself, but you don't think you're capable of doing. That could be cultivated if you were aware of it. So I think that's a fun thing to dive into under Lilith in Libra. Okay, now let's go to the most abstract of it all. We're going to go to our vibrational reading, our larger scale weather report. This is going to be our vibe weather. Sorry, you guys just get ASMR of me gulping water. Okay. Speaking of vibes, let me play this. I know this looks like a bone, but it's actually a piece of wood that I found. I have a bowl a singing bowl that I leave outside, and I left the mallet, the ringer, the bowl ringer that came with this bowl outside with my outdoor one. It's actually a piece of a chandelier that just happened to have a resonant frequency that was one of these frequencies. I left the ringer out there and it disappeared overnight one night. I think a creature of the forest took it. But I found a few weeks later, right next to it, this perfectly smooth stick. It had already been weathered and whittled away into a very good ringing clapper. So thank you to Bigfoot or whatever it was that came by and stole my original mallet, because you gave me something even more awesome in return. Beautiful. Okay. Now that we have some compassion vibes going, let's do this. Selenite for the fiber optic cable crystal. It is the fiber optics of crystals. It's just like a bunch of parallel tubes of stone, so that light transmits through it in a way that's kind of like fiber optics. And it's supposed to be a highway knowledge information superhighway. I feel like it's like the Ethernet cable of crystals. It's the fiber optic internet cable to higher realms. So we're going to put that with this deck. Let's see, what is the energy coming in from outside of our physical world right now? What's coming in from the higher levels? What is the rainfall precipitating downwards to the physical realm from the higher octave than physical realm? What's the information that we need to get from there today? Yeah, could be the fairies. Ooh, I've never interacted with the fairies to my knowledge. I have tried not to invoke them because I am afraid of their trickery. I've heard they're tricksy little fellows, so I haven't wanted to piss them off by accident, so I haven't messed with them. Okay, what's the information we need? The main event isn't the destination. It's my joyous journey. And it's got a picture of somebody riding tucked into the wings of a bird. It says, you did not come forth seeking assignments to complete. You came forth for reason to flow and to love and enjoy life. Even though you will return home at the end of any vacation, the idea of your holiday is not to complete it as quickly as possible so that you can check it off your list. The idea of your vacation and of this life experience is to have a joyous experience. So, this is a life experience that you chose to go on, a departure from wherever you were before, and you didn't come here to get objectives done. You came here to enjoy the journey of what it's like to be in this realm. So remember to enjoy the journey the whole time, because you're going to go back to the other place eventually. It's just you need to maybe enjoy the journey while you're here. Okay. My little labradorite has a beautiful flash in it. Piece of raw labradorite. I got that crystal for free from somebody for correctly guessing that it was a piece of labradorite. Labradorite. I think I always say it like the dog, labradorite, but I think other people say labradite. I like the dog way. Let's see. What goes with the main event isn't the destination, it's my joyous journey. All right. The Eight of Pentacles upright is what we've drawn for that. So the Eight of Pentacles upright, you are so close to being done with your journey, but you are not quite there yet. We're still enjoying the process, as it were. Look at all those 7 pentacles you've built already, and you're working on the 8th. We're not quite at 10 of Pentacles yet. We're not quite sitting back and enjoying our riches. We're still in the process, in the journey, deeply crafting and loving the sensual motions of crafting, doing our thing as existing as people here on this earth. That goes really well with It's My Joyous Journey. Understanding that life is the destination. It is not a vehicle to get you somewhere. The whole thing that we're doing here is the thing that we're supposed to be doing. Just doing the thing in general. Even if you're doing the thing, sometimes looks like not getting much done. Just having a human experience and constantly being an alive human being is part of the journey. They're mischievous. Yes. Hence why I do not try to invoke the fairies. Not really what I'm looking for out of my journey. Even though I think it's cool that they exist and they do their own thing. That is really neat. I think they're pretty and cute and very powerful and scary as well. Okay. Let's go to the liminal space deck. Probably the nicest cards to shuffle that I have, which makes a lot of sense for liminal space, I feel like. They can all mix together. It's the parking lot of things. It's the mall food court of things. It's the liminal space of things. All right, postcards from the liminal space. What do you got for us to go with the Eight of Pentacles upright and The main event isn't the destination, it's my joyous journey. This is not how the story ends. And it's got a, this one's always hard to white balance, but it's got an image of somebody's journal writing here. The date says infinity, infinity, infinity. There is a half-smoked cigarette in the ashtray and a beautiful view of the mountains and clouds out there. Let's see what that one says. This is not how the story ends. In fact, it is just the beginning. If life hasn't broken you yet, then this certainly won't be the thing that does you in. All great stories, like life itself, require dips in the plot, movement, decay, and renewal. Let this chapter end and get your shit together, honey. Something, somehow, comes next. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. We are not at the end yet. We are just in the process, always creating, ever making the process. Just like how a cyclone is never truly done. It just reconstitutes its momentum back into the jet stream or precipitated down into the water cycle in another cycle. Energy is not created nor destroyed. The story's never quite over. It just shifts into a new phase. We've just simply stopped being a low pressure system and are interstitial pressure until we are part of a high pressure location. And then we move to a low pressure location. All of this, it all continues to flow. Our stories move the way that a cyclone does, the way that the weather does. Our stories are constantly finding their rising and falling motion all at the same time. Many plots happening at the same time. It's not like a movie where there's a 1, 2, 3, and this is the only main plot and everything ties into the central narrative. This is playing like 5 or 6 different story modes at the same time with the same character in the same space. You're never at the end of a story. You're always in the process of all of them happening at the same time, feeding into each other and linking in very interesting ways, and weaving in with other people's stories as well. All of our waveforms constantly changing, and we should enjoy the process as we're in it. Savor every little sensual act, every sensation, every location. Savor the nice feelings that you get along the way, because one day you'll be reminiscent about everyday objects, like when I had this vape right here, or when this piece of trash was right here. One day we will all look back and be like, cherishing the beauty of every single little detail about our lives. The world is so rich in detail. And I mean, I always think of it compared to video games. Why would you not want to be out in real life experiencing the real life objects? We have so many senses. There's no rendering that needs to be done in order to sense a table fully. We can feel the texture down to super fine details, and it doesn't bog down the game to try to render all the detail in that, to try to recreate the level of detail, beauty, and majesty in every single inch of creation would take a computer the size and complexity of which the world couldn't even create. The world itself, being a computer, couldn't even create all the detail. It couldn't simulate all the detail. This is just a computer on another dimensional level that has to create this much detail. It's a beautiful world. It's terrifying, and we die, and that's scary, and we feel pain, and that's doesn't feel awesome compared to the pleasure. And we feel longing and yearning, and we feel nasty, gross human emotions. We feel like a mud and a rotten ick. inside of ourselves, but we're here to not be completely perfect persons that have no rotten ick of emotion inside of us. We're here to learn the process of moving through it, examining it, understanding where it came from, what it's doing here, and what it's trying to tell us about our system. I hope you enjoy defragmenting your computer of a person. I think doing trauma work and shadow work is like the defragmenting of your own brain and soul. So go defrag that hard drive in your head. Go to therapy. Get some help. Don't do it all alone, kid. It's hard out there. And we have each other for a reason. We're communal animals for a reason. We need each other. Okay. And that being said, I love you all very much. This has been another episode of Today's Weather Tonight. I've been Cloud Hudson. If you want to leave me a tip, you can Venmo me, but you don't have to. It's in the description. I love you guys so much, and I will see you tomorrow night. Have a good evening. Bye.